I'm Dr. Stacy once again. Some of you may have recognized me from the Mindful World Summit. You might recognize these other two ladies who are joining us today, Annie and Rhea Lalla. I just learned they happen to be sisters, which is awesome. And they were both such amazing contributors to the Mindful World Parenting Summit that wrapped up last week, but there is a chance for you to join again. But we're really, really excited that they're here today live, because, as much as these ideas are, we grab onto them, they're sometimes really new and really different. We are all really interested in the practical application of these ideas, because that's where it counts, right? It's like, how do I take this understanding and action it in my life? And it's not like a 1, 2, 3. It is an iteration over and over again, and we're learning all the way. So we so appreciate this experience of having both of you here. And we're going to be talking about essentially the nitty-gritty of conscious parenting, or showing up in any relationship, which is doing the inner work, which we often don't think of right away. We often will focus on that person or that event that happened, and it's all on the outside. And so we need some help, we need some coaxing to actually change the focus and really understand our own power to heal and fully show up. So I'm so excited for this conversation. Yeah. And I'm not sure who of you wants to start. Annie, in your work, you showed up in the summit primarily with Evan, your husband. You were the only couple that we had, and you talked so well about the conscious parenting component, but also how you two engage and resolve conflicts and challenges, and that it actually made you stronger. It really strengthened that relationship. And the other thing that you have to offer the world is in your coaching that you do around love and the journey all of us go on, and what it has for us. So this is so wonderful that you're here with us today to share that component. And Rhea, you also really, I think our audience really appreciated, and I appreciated, some of the beautiful tools that you use every day in your role as a parent. And that concrete stuff is just gold. I know that I've started integrating some of your ideas around just the end of the night, and this idea that my child can give me feedback about how they felt loved and how I could do better. And it's been such a beautiful conversation since then. So I don't need to be talking. I need you guys to be talking. So whoever wants to start with this idea, and maybe we can start with some of the core concepts in case there's people out there who didn't get the opportunity to watch your interviews. I'll go to either of you to start. Rhea, you're lighting up for me on my screen.
Okay.
So if you want to go first.
Absolutely. So for those of you that were lucky enough to listen in, and for those of you who are going to listen in for the first time this Encore weekend or in the future, last week I spoke about power struggles and how to start eliminating them from your life. And I defined power struggle as two people are digging their heels in and seeing who has more will to get the control. And the easy way that I gauge to whether or not we're in a power struggle is the minute you find yourself really attached to being right, then you know you're in a power struggle. Now, one of the things that I want to share with everybody is a lot of times parents may feel that, oh gosh, my child is defiant, or they're difficult, or they're stressing me out. And I think that it didn't really come up last week, but just reframing that behavior, that this child who appears as defiant is really a very inner-directed, strong-willed, spirited, courageous child who wants to learn from themselves. They want to experiment. They want to be in charge of themselves. That's a beautiful thing. That's a child that grows up with points of views, that stand for something, that can articulate it. Those are the people that go out and invent things because they go, forget what everybody else is doing, I'm going to do what I believe. So when we position it like that in our mind, all of a sudden we go through defiant, making my life difficult, to let's see how we can blow on those embers and clap for it, but just work it in a way that there's not turmoil and tension in the house. And that comes down to, how do you begin to do that, right? Of course. Mm-hmm. And I know that's where parents get stuck, as you rightfully say. What do you do? So you touched upon this in our session, but I can't stress enough that asking your children for feedback, there is nobody that will give you better feedback than your children. But in order for your children to give you feedback, they need to feel safe. They need to feel that they can tell you every paper cut in their heart. And especially when they're taking their God and their goddesses in their life, which is their parents, who they want to protect, who they want to feel in connection with, and then find the courage to articulate something to their parent to say, it hurts me when you, I feel sad when you do this. I feel neglected. That takes courage. I mean, we as grown adults struggle with that. So the way we facilitate that is by doing a few other things, right? So asking the question, how can I love you in a way that you want to be loved? How did you feel loved by mommy? What can I do to improve myself? Which you're doing right now with your children, which is so beautiful. That is, I think, the go-to place for you to up your game. But in order to build the trust, there needs to be other things that are in place. And that is that nothing ever should try in your power struggle, and recognizing that you're right, nothing should ever break the will of the child, right? So we always want to hold the child's integrity and their sense of self and their sense of respect and as paramount.
Sacred.
Yeah.
Okay, so really creating it's a shift that this child is not against us, right? Yeah. That then they are asserting who they are, and we want to hold space for that.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to footnote my sister Annie, because she'll often say this, and I'll let her carry on with this. But you're seeing it almost as if you're arm in arm with your child, right? You're arm in arm, and there's something else that you're trying to figure out together.
Okay, so Annie, we're throwing to you now.
Yeah, well, I think she's referencing, in my relationship coaching and in all relationship conflict, every conflict I've ever seen between two people, and I've helped a lot of couples through them, always seems to boil down to one thing. All conflicts, whether it's a cap off the toothpaste, or you were late, or you didn't pick up the dry cleaning, it's always one thing. It's always a misunderstanding that is happening at the root of the conflict. And the point of the resolution is to get at the misunderstanding. But what I found is the misunderstanding is always the same thing in all fights. And that is, one of the people in the fight, or both, don't feel seen, loved, seen, respected, understood, all forms of loved. I don't feel seen, respected, understood, or loved right now. It's not about the toothpaste cap or you forgot the dry cleaning. It's I don't feel respected, seen, loved. And so if you get that and stop arguing about the toothpaste cap and respond as if that's what they're saying, I don't feel loved right now, and you link arm in arm with your partner to fight, not each other, on a point of view who's right power struggle style, you link arm in arm with your partner to fight the third entity, which is the misunderstanding. What is this misunderstanding? You become investigators together as allies to discover this misunderstanding. Wait, the misunderstanding is you don't feel loved, seen, respected, understood by me? That's never what a partner, a parent, or a friend wants to imbue. So there must be some misunderstanding that happened in a tone, a voice, or a phrase. And so, this applies to power struggles with parents and children, but also between partners. I want to pick up where Rhea left off about power struggles, and because it's there everywhere between all humans and all conflict, but in particular between parent and child. When you get positional with your child, what's going on is you have literally regressed to a young self that's triggered and wants its way. I want my way. So the child's doing their little I want my way, which is totally appropriate for, 5-year-olds. But I want my way as a 40-year-old adult isn't. And the difference, literally parents regress in time, which means they time travel. They still look grown up, but they time travel back inside in their nervous system to a 5-year-old themselves. So now there was one grown up in the room and one 5-year-old, but suddenly when the parent gets triggered, now there's 2 5-year-olds in the room and there's no adult in the room holding space. And so what I want, you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that the parents is then like, I didn't get this. Unconsciously, they don't know this, but I didn't get this, so you're not going to get this, right?
Yeah, and that's just a piece I was going to mention later is intergenerational envy. That's super subtle and no one's talking about this. But basically, if a parent didn't get what they needed in terms of love, support, and understanding from their parents, they literally don't have a reference experience. They don't know how to give what they don't have inside and never got. And so then they unwittingly steal from their children that same amount of love and support that they didn't get from their parents. And it's an awful lineage wound that continues to go unless you bump into a program like this or a teacher or a coach that wakes you up and says, hey, I know you didn't get it from your parents, the listening, the attention, the love. And then we teach them how to hold their little internal self, that the child inside of every parent needs to feel loved and understood and seen by a therapist, a coach, and then the parent themselves. The parent has to become an attachment figure for their own little child. And this is a technique that most people never figure out, how to become a self-soother internally as a parent. And this is what leads into what I'm going to say next, which is I actually think self-regulation of your nervous system, which is just a fancy word for saying how you use breath and internal somatic modalities, breathing, meditation, how you use your breath and your body to calm your nervous system down. That is called self-regulation, regulating your nervous system. I think self-regulation is the highest form of love possible to give to another human, whether it's your daughter, your son, or your romantic partner. And it's the hardest skill to develop. And so I would love to get into that a little bit about, some tips on how to regulate your nervous system, because most people think it's their partner or some other person's job to make them feel calm. And the worst is when we think it's our children's job to make us feel calm, to stop doing the bad behavior, to change what their tone of voice, to act respectful, so that we as the parent, who's supposed to be the adult, the one that is supposed to have the skills of regulating our nervous system, and we're expecting the child to do that for that. And this is a burden that we put on our kids unwittingly. And I want to really hammer this point home. We lean on our children when we're unwilling to feel our feelings of frustration, anger, sadness. And I can explain what it means to feel a feeling, but when we don't feel our feelings, someone in the room's got to feel them. And it's usually the nervous system of the child. And this is a burden on the child. It steals their childhood, and it parentifies the child. It turns the child unwittingly into the calmer soother of mom and dad, which is what breeds resent between children and parent. And I just want to be really clear. It is never the child's job to regulate the parent's emotions.
Right. And I'd add to that, the impact of that, what we know from our research as well, is that that's one of the big predictors of chronic illness later in life. Cancer,
depression, low self-esteem.
Like it's a stress that is a sneaky stress because you're in it, and people aren't recognizing, but it sets off a whole cascade of stress hormones, inflammatory processes that build up over time because that child is stuck in that process in every relationship.
And not to mention that this is what breeds resent between your child and you. If you wonder why they don't come home for Thanksgiving, why they don't want to show up for Christmas, why they don't call you every Friday, it's probably because it wasn't fun to be around you, because you as a parent didn't know how to feel your feelings, so the child had to do that for you. And this is, Rhea, you want to say something?
Well, so one of the things, because I really want everyone that's listening to have some tools in their pocket on what do you do when you want to self-regulate, right? So there's many different things. Remember, self-regulation, which is calming your nervous system, really is getting out of your head, getting out of the story that your mind is constantly creating, and the story that has created it, right? So most of the time when we think that we're working through something, it is, if shoulda, coulda, woulda, if he didn't say this or the child didn't do this, then I wouldn't feel this. So now we have to move.
So, you're saying blame, shame, make wrong, justification, reasons. Those are narrative, cognitive functions that have nothing to do with feelings.
Correct. So feelings are something that you need to feel, so you need to go into your body. So one of the questions was, how do I self-regulate? Which means calm your nervous system. For me, not for me, the feeling occurs in the body, okay? So what I do is I imagine that I'm in this giant round scanner, and the scanner is starting at the top of my head, and it's moving slowly down. And as it's moving slowly down, it's scanning for what? Sensations. It's maybe there's a pressure, maybe there's a hurt, maybe there's a tightness, maybe there's a contraction. And I keep moving down because I want to become sensorially aware of where in my body do I tend to hold maybe this feeling, but eventually you'll get to the point where I go, oh, wait a second, I tend to hold my stress, tension, anxiety, anger in my chest. So I'm scanning down and then I go, oh, wait a second, I feel something in my chest. What do I feel? I don't know. It feels tight. It feels contracted, because this is the only gauge I'm gauging. Is it loose and expansive, or does it hurt and feel tight? Yeah. So it's like a really quick litmus test. It feels tight and contracted. So I go, okay, that means I'm having a sensation. And then when I'm at that sensation, instead of doing what we've usually do, which is to run from it, because we learned that well when we were children, run from the feeling because no one's coming to save me, and jealousy.
Or it's too overwhelming for my nervous system and I can't handle it, so I disassociate.
Precisely. So you disassociate, which is what we often do. stay with it. Stay with the feeling. Now, what does it mean to stay with the feeling? I like to do a number of different things, and that's number one, I first just go from 1 to 10. What's the intensity of the feeling? Okay, so it's a 9. I give it a color, I give it a shape, I give it a texture, I give it a movement.
And then a location in the body. A location
in the body. And then I do some deep breaths, deep diaphragmic breaths, or there's some midlining. Annie can talk about that because there's other ways, but this is probably my favorite, and that's why I'm sharing this. And then after I do my deep breathing, I go back again to the intensity, the color, the shape, the texture, the movement. The reason why I'm doing that is because there's no way for you to stay with something and then still be running the story in your head, which is going to take you down a loop. So you're trying to
stay in your head or in your body. And feelings are not stories about why they're bad or wrong or you're bad and wrong. Feelings are always a matrix of physical sensations in the body, like an itch, like the need to pee, like hunger. That's what a feeling is like. So it's in the body. Correct. And so Rhea's asking you to scan your body for the most salient sensations, tension, where you can find. Hang out there. Describe it with metaphor. Is it dark? Is it light? Is it moving? Is it sticky and tarry? Literally, we don't have language for our feelings, so you to use metaphor. And you're saying to hang out there, pay attention to it?
Yes. And I want you to also notice, for the people that are listening that may not be used to doing this, everything in you is going to want to pull you away. Your mind is going to pull you away saying, don't stay there. Doesn't feel good there. It feels uncomfortable. Or you're thinking this is too woo-woo and strange if you're not used to doing this. Coming from somebody that didn't do this before to transitioning to it's the only thing that saves me when I'm spiraling. So I take a time out and I do this. And then,
yeah. I just want to differentiate. Whenever there's humans out there, whenever we have a feeling, there's two aspects to a feeling. There's the feeling, which is a matrix of physical sensations in your body, like I need to pee, like I'm hungry, or I'm scared, or I'm sad. Sadness is always a physical sensation in your body. That's one part of what a feeling is. The other part is what everyone gets distracted by, which is the story about the feeling. Oh, we have a great story about our feeling. We can tell you who caused it, what's wrong, justification, explanation, blame, shame, make wrong. Anything that has words and narrative and explanation, you're in the story about the feeling, not the feeling. Make sure you know the difference. And 99% of humans hang out in the story about the feeling, which is a custom crafted disassociation technique to not be in your body. Very, very clever for a young child to develop, to not be overwhelmed in the nervous system. But as a grown-up, we actually have the capacity to do, as Rhea said, scan our body and look for where those sensations of that feeling is. Hang out there just as long as you can. You might even ask it, hello feeling, what are you? I send white light to that area of my body that has tension. And I say, I'm listening, feeling. I don't even need to know the name of it. What are you trying to show me? What are you trying to tell me? And I just listen as best as I can. And I can feel my brain calling me into she's wrong, he's wrong, I'm wrong, this is the justification. But that's a decoy, and that is you escaping from your ability to actually love yourself and your child in that moment. This is where courage, real courage, the kind that no one gives you an award for, the kind that no one notices except yourself. And so this is real parenting in the invisible underbelly of your work that you'll have to just recognize yourself for. And when I do this, when I take a feeling of frustration and instead of putting it on my child, I take a time out and I breathe, I find my frustration, I hang out, I dissipate and breathe through it. That is the highest act of love I can give my daughter. And this is real heroism as a parent. And I just want to hype it up. This is the skill. And I think both Rhea and I are saying, if you learn nothing in this whole program, if you learn how to self-regulate when you have an emotion so that you don't put that emotion into the field and force your child to feel it instead, then you are doing them a great service, and it's a deep act of love.
I can't agree.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm just, because this is like such a core skill. And I'm wondering if maybe the audience can pipe in, if this is an opportunity for us to practice something all together. I'm wondering if we could come up with an exercise, maybe all of us think back to something that happened recently that might come top of mind, and actually just practice this together. Maybe if...
Yeah, I want to give them the simplest one, because Rhea, yours is quite sophisticated, the scanning. There's a one you can try that's even simpler, I would add in right before you do the scanning through your body, which is 5 deep breaths with the exhale around twice as long as the inhale. That's it. That's the easiest, fastest way to self-regulate that I've ever found. So if everybody wants to on the call, we just do it together.
Okay.
I think we could create a field of self-regulation.
Yeah, let's create that energy. Is everybody game for this? Maybe if people want to raise a hand or say yes in the chat, and we can just get a sense of are we on track here? Yes. We got one. Nick, yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can get, yeah. Okay. It seems like we're getting a lot of yeses. So yay, bring it. Okay, Barbara, let's do this. Okay. So Annie, can you repeat for us?
Okay, why don't I do the 5 breaths, and then after you could do a scanning one, so everyone gets a somatic imprint.
Sure. That's okay. Yep. If we have time for that.
Yeah, we have time. Let's do it.
Okay.
So everybody, we're gonna close our eyes. Okay, and we're just gonna soften our jaw and our shoulders. And I want you to just think about something in the last day that was like lower than 5 out of 10, frustrating. Just a little grumble, a little thing that didn't go quite your way, and just generate it in your memory. So it's a mild irritation. And once you've got that feeling present in your body, okay, I want you to just follow my instructions now. What we're going to do in a moment, and we're all going to do it together, is we're going to take 5 deep breaths in with our eyes closed. Okay? So close your eyes. And in a moment, we're going to take 5 deep breaths in. And when you breathe out on each exhale, you're going to give it about twice as long length exhale as you did inhale. It doesn't have to be perfect. And when you're done your 5 breaths, you say done, and then we'll tell you what to do next. All right, everyone? Okay, feel that feeling. Everyone, deep breath in. Long breath out. That's right, you're doing great. So you take your time, and when you are finished your breaths, then you're gently going to open your eyes and orient yourself to the room, and just notice what's different in your body. So just tune into your body and notice what's softened, notice what's shifted. 5 simple breaths, but your nervous system has become softer, smoother. You can do this anywhere. I usually do minimum of 5, between 5 and 9 breaths. That should do it. This may sound simple and ridiculous, but this is literally what they teach Vietnam vets with PTSD to climb out of a panic. So it's simple but extremely powerful. And I can say this simple technique has saved my marriage. So Rhea.
Yeah. So before we go to the body scan, I want to just add something on to what Annie so beautifully ran us through. And that is, there are moments that you're going to find that you're so in your amygdala hijack, you are so in your reptile brain that even finding your breath feels dysregulated. So for most of us that we're breathing, hopefully we're not breathing from our neck or our chest, we're breathing from our belly. And there have been moments where I've been frustrated enough where the breath isn't coming to me. And so I just want to offer you one quick thing for those moments. And for your children, because sometimes if you're telling your children to breathe, because you know that's a good thing, and you notice that they just even can't find their breath because they're so upset, this is what you can do. So as John Medina, the famous neuroscientist, says, move your body. If you're not moving, you're depressed. So moving your body is going to be a change of state. I've noticed that anything that gets me into my body, I always start a car ride holding my husband's hand, but I was so frustrated and I couldn't find my breath. And then I turned on the radio and just so happened to have a song that I loved. And the music allowed me to calm my nervous system down enough to get out of my head, get into my body. And then I was able to find my breath and we could start the car ride holding hands. So just, if you can't find your breath because you're really angry, I don't want you to feel like I don't know how to do it or I feel confused, but Annie's right. It will be the thing that saves you when you get practice doing it often.
So are you saying if they just move their body, if they just spin, walk, stretch?
Walk your body, stretch your body, stand on your head, play music that you like. Sometimes I tell my kids, because they know their own coping techniques, my son will go upstairs and he'll just like put on some music, and then all of a sudden he's changed his entire state. So these are really good things. Okay, so for the scanning, which I think is a game changer, I want everybody to close their eyes for a moment, and we'll just do like we'll try and get through this in a minute and a half, but just so you can get the idea, and then you can take it further in your own time. So what I do is I close my eyes and I think about, so for you, I'd like you to think about something that, I don't know, was maybe a 5, 6, or 7 out of 10 of stressful or bothersome or irritable for you in the last day or two. Okay? Could be the same one that Annie had you conjure up in your mind. Just take a second to find that. Okay. So now when you have it, I want you to imagine sitting up nice and tall. I imagine that I have this circular scanner. It almost looks like a little bit like something out of space. It's just around and it can fit my whole body, but it's starting at the top of my head. So I want you to imagine at the top of your head is this round circular scanner, and its superpower is simply to search for sensation. So as the scanner is slowly going down, I want you to just do a check-in because it's passing over your forehead into the back of your head. Just feeling in for any tension, any tightness. We're going to slowly move it down now towards the front of our face and our jaw, scanning into the back of our neck, feeling once again for any sensation, any tightness, any contraction. We're going to move the scanner down now. Now it's encircling our neck and the backs of our shoulders or tops of our shoulders. Just take a moment to hover here for a second. See if you feel any tightness in any particular spot on your shoulder blades, on your neck. Often, sometimes we can feel it in our throat if we don't feel we can express what we're feeling. We tend to feel some tension in our throat. Now let's take a moment to keep moving the scanner slowly down. Let's hover into our chest area, right in the center of our heart. Take a moment to just feel in and see if you're feeling any tightness, any contraction, any pressure. And if you do feel anything in any of those spots so far that we've gone, we can even move it down just to make sure we cover our tummy area. So we can move the scanner down to our tummy, feeling in to see if it feels tight, or if it feels calm and relaxed, just noticing what you feel. Now that the scanner has gone through at least our upper torso, I want you in your mind's eye to visualize where in your body you felt the most amount of tension. For me, it's often in my chest area. For you, it might be in the back of your neck. I want you to just spend some time in that particular spot. And as you sit there, feeling into that sensation, I want you just to get as granular as you can and see if you had to give it a number from 1 to 10, what would the number be? 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Now that you have a number, I want you to now take a moment to see if you had to give it a color. Okay?
Google password.
So this is an act of imagination. You're just going to use your imagination to see, is there a color? And if it's, for example, if the color that's coming to you is black or red, see if you can get really clear on it. Is it fire engine red? Is it blood red? Is it a bright yellow? Is it a dull yellow? What color is it? Now let's go on to the shape of it. Is it the shape? Is it round? Is it irregular shaped? Is it big as a cantaloupe, or is it as small as a plum? Take a moment to even look at the periphery of whatever the shape is. See if you can even get granular. Is it smooth edges, or is it sharp, jaggedy edges as if a glass is broken? Is it moving? Is it moving clockwise or counterclockwise? Is it going back and forth, or is it just like a solid mass that's just sitting there, heavy and hard? So because I don't want to leave you here, since we've actually found our way to a sensation in our body and the sensation wants to be felt, the next piece is I just want to go back to what Annie walked us through. And let's go and do we're going to do 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths. I love to put my hand on my tummy to make sure that it's ballooning out. Okay? So let's just do this together. And then we're going to take deep breaths together. So here we go.
Yeah, I just want to offer, before we leave those sensations, that we just send white light and love energy towards those sensations, so they know that you're attending to them and you see them.
And then next, if we've taken that moment to breathe, we're going to go back to the same spot that we were before. And this, because, I mean, it does take a little bit of time for us to fully move through a sensation, but at this point, I just want you to take a moment, because I know there's a lot of other questions, but take a moment to go back to the sensation that was there. And your job now is to just see, if you were to rank it out of 1 to 10, has the number gone up? Has it stayed the same? Or has it gone down? If it stayed the same, that's okay. If it's gone up, it's okay. Just notice what's different. Has the color changed? Has it become brighter, less intense, smaller, the size of it? Is it moving differently? Has the size shrunk? And then what I would do is I would keep going back through this iterative process. And so if I was at a 9 and now I'm at a 6, let's say, then I'm going to go back and again do some breathing exercises, and I'm going to go back to the sensation. Now, everybody can open their eyes for this moment when you're ready. Now, this is not something I just want to share with everybody who may have found it either easy or challenging to do what we just walked through. But I came from a place where this was not something that I learned how to do from my parents. I had to learn this very late in my life. However, now I'm at the point, I just want to tell you what's waiting for you on the other side when you practice this daily, sometimes many times for the day. What's waiting for you on the other side is I now don't have to wait until my mind, or I'm yelling at somebody in the household, or my mind feels very discombobulated. I can actually just go to my body and just go, oh, it feels like there's tension on my chest. And that means that something's worrying me or unsettling me. So let me go and do that practice. So what that means now is that using my body, somatically, I can catch the feeling upstream, because the feeling always occurs in the body first, long before your mind realizes I'm frustrated. So if you can catch something upstream long before the shout comes out of your mouth for your children, that's a win. And that's a win for yourself and for the family as a whole.
Okay, so thank you. I mean, that was great, and I would echo that all the things that you're teaching are things that I would be teaching in my practice, because at the end of the day, that in order to access our higher self, we need to quiet our lower self, right? We need to, like, just that's how our brains function.
Well, I think our higher self might be here.
Okay. Well, I'm just talking about the ability,
the cortex, yeah,
the access. What do we want to do next, right? Coming from a wise place, right? So just from a neuroscience standpoint, it doesn't make sense to get into the rationalizing and all of the discussion and all of that. We need to calm the body first, always step one. Yeah. You know what? I see there's someone named Kim that has her hand up, and maybe Mike, if you could allow her video. Kim, if you had a question that you wanted to ask Annie or Rhea. Here she is. Okay. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
We don't have Kim's mic yet. Oh.
Kim, you have to click on your microphone so we can hear you.
Okay. Well, maybe
you can
Mike,
type in the question.
Mike, maybe you can help us with the technical stuff.
I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, I'm trying to unmute her, but it's not.
And Kim, if you can type the question in, is there a way in the chat box we could definitely answer?
Yeah. Okay, so while Kim's figuring that piece out, I would just add another little hack that I've learned along the way when it comes to like the breathing thing and getting started. Because when I introduce the idea of deep breathing to people, especially they tend to go like this, and it's really tense, and they can't get it in. And sometimes just focusing on the out breath, focusing on just letting go all of the air super slowly. And then it triggers this nice reflex where the next inhalation, if you can do it through your nose, is a little bit deeper. So not even focusing, and I'd add a little image of like pretending that there's a candle that's lit, like about here, and you don't want to blow it out. So it has to be this low, like slow, even breath. So everything is gone. So not the conscious breath, like the first breath is actually exhalation. And then when that your body tells you it's time to inhale, slowly inhaling through your nose. And just starting that process that way. That way we get out of that energy of I have to force this process.
Yeah, I love the candle metaphor. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's just an image that helps me with that just slow it down. So that may be something, especially when we're feeling really heated and the tendency is to hyperventilate. We can build up that carbon dioxide that helps us, like keeps us in that tense state. It just of circumvents that pretty effectively. So just something else to add there. Just wondering, is there anyone else that's watching right now? We have about like 65 people in this chat right now. If anyone else has questions, certainly do either raise a hand or write it down, and let's keep this dynamic because we want to make sure
and
that
we can also, while they're figuring that, we both have exercises we can offer. If the questions are live, great. Otherwise, we could just give our exercise.
I see Nick is asking a question here. He says, I'm curious to know how important you think it is to identify and point to sources of our family of origin and cultural conditioning versus changing my behavior in the moment. I'm going to try to find Nick and let him ask that.
Great. That's a great question.
Yeah, we have a lot to say about that.
Nick, your mic is live, Nick, if you're interested.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're there. We
Hello?
can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Nick here.
Hey, Nick.
So yeah, I'm wondering about the importance of, I know that there are a billion causes and effects that create my moment-to-moment experience of life. And I've done a lot of therapy as well as like more talk therapy and tactical learnings. And I'm curious to know your takes on discerning between how important it actually is to identify like, oh, this might be a behavior or a thought pattern that I learned from my mom or from my dad, like identifying that versus like, it doesn't really matter where it came from as long as I can identify the behavior that I'm doing that's not working in this moment and just shifting that in the moment.
Yeah, I've just recently been practicing this myself. So I just want to, first of all, I don't think you have to trace it back to who, though it helps if you can. So if you can track, oh, this feels like something I learned or took up or picked up from one of my parents. When you do that, I want to make sure you don't do it in a, they screwed up my life, it's their fault kind of way. Because what you give away your power and responsibility back in time. It doesn't give you power in the moment. Yeah. But what you do is you footnote, oh, it came from there. And I think of it as like luggage that you pick up at the airport that wasn't yours and you take it home. And you just realize, oh, this is not my pattern. Very often we take on patterns to be in rapport with our parents. Yep. Hellinger, a therapist, calls it having a suffering obligation, where you continue to act in a way that your parents used to act as a way of being connected to them. My mom was always bitchy and complaining, and so I do bitchy and complaining so that she's not alone in the bitchy and complaining club, and it's a way we stay together. Even if she's dead and not alive anymore, we still do the automatic habit to feel connected in some weird nostalgic way. So what you do is you give that energy that's not yours, that pattern, you go, oh, that's not mine. And you can feel it's not connected to your core essence. You just give it back in your mind, your imagination, to your mom. And you imagine your mom going, oh, you took that? That wasn't ever meant to be yours. That's mine. Give that back to me. Thank you so much for giving me back my lost luggage. And imagine them taking it back with delight. And then you return to sender. And if you can't track who it came from, oh, this mail showed up and I don't know who it's from, but the sender's I'm just going to return to sender. Whoever it was will go and take it. It's like Marie Kondoing your emotional space, like clean out anything that's not yours. But the way to know whether it's yours or not is whether it feels grounded and connected to your essence, or like you're abducted, or like it's a foreign entity kind of maneuvering through you, and then you know it's not yours.
Okay.
Great.
Cool. Thank you. That's awesome.
Rhea, if you have anything to add?
No, you did great.
The one thing that I would just add to that is that when we talk about the body, like the body will guide you back. If you can kind of go with the sensation as Rhea and Annie had talked about, and kind of say, just ask your subconscious mind, like ask, where have I felt this before? Right? And
What's familiar? When?
what's the first time maybe, or the time before this? And it's interesting how quickly we go back to sometimes a really pivotal moment. And it could be something really subtle that happened often when we were a kid. It could, and with someone in the family or someone who was important to us, where essentially things were fine and then they weren't fine. There was just something that switched and we saw a different side, or somehow that relationship was threatened.
Yeah. And this is a kind of ninja move. So I was prescribed this only to like expert parents, but if you can go back to that pivotal inflection moment where the trauma or the drama or the pain point happened, the school teacher humiliated you, your mom did this thing to you. If you have some practice working with your inner child and you've been practicing connecting to it, one ninja move is to go back in your memory to that moment where the school teacher humiliated you in class and literally stand between the school teacher and your young self. Okay? You're protecting them, and you're going to speak to the school teacher in such a way that stands for the dignity of the young version of yourself behind you and optimizes for your dignity and the teacher's dignity. So you're not going to attack them. You're just going to look that teacher in the eye and you say, listen, stop right there. Stop criticizing her. You're better than this. I've got her now, and we'll take it from here. Just something that puts a boundary with no indignity to anyone involved in the system, but your little self is watching. It's been waiting forever for someone to come back and take care of it. And if you can practice that kind of go back, protecting yourself without attacking the oppressor, it's a very beautiful process that has a lot of power.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that.
And Nick, I just want to add one little other thing to that. And that is when I do my somatic experiencing as if I'm in a scanner, at the end of that, when I get myself from a 9 to a 1, the question that I always ask at the end of it is I get an image of my little girl. So it's a slightly different from what Annie said, but tangential to it. And that is I get the image of her. I get a look on her face. She might be 5 or 10 or 12. And I go, what is it that you need right now? Right? And whatever that child says to me, which is my younger self, if ever God was speaking to me, I listen to whatever she says with reverence, and then whatever it is she's wanting or needing, that's what I do. So that to me is my access to my unconscious mind to recognize what it is how I have to show up now. And then I assure her in that moment, which is the act of reparenting myself, to let her know and feel safe that this is going to be my highest priority for me to give you this. And then
what do I need to feel safe right now? And it can't be something that your husband has to do for her. It's something you have to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
I love all of those ninja moves, as you mentioned, Annie, because you say notion that I be able to shine in this life. And that's kind of the message I'm getting, that we're taking on this role for ourselves, for this little child that is still wounded and cut up and makes havoc every once in a while. And we're saying, I got your back no matter what. I'm not abandoning you.
I got you.
That's
I
right.
got you. And Alice Miller, a really great author on parenting and psychotherapist, she says, and this is a heartbreaking but true statement I found, any love you didn't get from your parents that you needed, you will unwittingly steal from your children unless you get meta to the pattern. You can't help it. No amount of I will not do this to my child can stop you, because your little child has seniority over your physical child. Your inner girl has seniority, and she will undermine if you try to give more love to your actual daughter than to her. Just like if you took all the neighbors' kids out for lunch and played with them, your own kids at home would be angry and resentful towards you and those. Your little girl has priority over your actual kids. And when she's held and loved, you as a complete system have way more to give your kids. And they can feel a whole mom rather than half a mom struggling,
And and one of the how-tos for that, I feel that I would like to offer the audience is this, yes, of course, ask your children, but If you're finding that you can't get to that for whatever reason from your inner child and asking them questions about what it is they need, ask the people around you that you trust and love. It doesn't mean you have to accept it, but that is a way for you to access what are the things that I'm doing, or how am I showing up in a way that might be not useful.
Or
so
needed. Like, what are we asking our partners to do is usually what our little girl needs from ourselves.
Exactly. So if you're willing to be courageous enough to ask that question of your children, of your spouse, of your partner, of your closest friends, and then take it in, and then you can choose to take what you will or you won't. But at least if you're ever going to uncover some of the things that you might be doing that show up suboptimally or don't lend itself to a really close connected connection, then that's another way you can
And
do
what's
it.
the question, Rhea? Just give them a question that they could ask.
Well, bearing in mind, everybody wants to protect you. So they're going to feel really nervous. So I would say something like, listen, I'm doing my best to be the best mother or to be the best friend or to be the best lover that I can be. It would be the greatest gift you could give me to show me what areas that might be in my blind spot that you can elucidate for me, that I can do better. If I just did this, or if I just understood this, that I would relate to you in a more connected way, or I would understand you better.
Right.
What might those be? And maybe give a few examples that you might think. And then
maybe tell them you'll love them more, not less.
Absolutely.
They're safe. And actually, mommy would see this as such a contribution. It would be such a gift to mommy rather than you'll get in trouble.
Yeah, because everybody is afraid of, people are afraid of asking that question, but people are deathly afraid of answering the question. But I encourage you to, be like Superman, or Supergirl, and then run into the flames. Yeah, because liberation lies there. Yeah.
There's been a question. I think it was Yvonne. I'm not sure exactly where. It was a question for you, Rhea. Excuse me. That's relevant to both of you. How long did it take for you to be practicing this before you felt like you were made? Yvonne, I think is maybe right here on the chat. Maybe Yvonne can ask herself. Hi, Yvonne. Can you hear and see us? Oh, we can't quite hear you. You might have to enable a microphone, or, oh my goodness, we're in a car. Hopefully she's been safe.
It looks like she's driving. That's funny.
We have to answer the question.
Yeah, let's just go to
We
the
can answer the question. So the question was,
how long did it take
did
for you to train
practice?
yourself? Yeah.
I would say that I'm still training myself. So I think this is, you've reached the top of Everest. This is whether you're committed to every day, know that there's an Everest and it's beautiful and I'm going to get on it every day. So put your mind at ease that no one's sitting at the top going, I've nailed this, right? Number two, for me to really start getting to the point where I could go into my body and check in with my body first to be the indicator that there's something stressing me, like catching it upstream. If it comforts anyone, and that took me, I was into my 30s before I really started to tap into that. And then it took me, I would say that if you do this diligently and just try it out, just as your own empirical study, within a month, you will start to see a difference. Let's put it that way. Within a month, you will see a difference.
Absolutely. And I just want to say I've been practicing this full on for 6 years since I was pregnant. And at my best, and I teach this, I probably can churn out 65 to 70% success at doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is 6 years of practicing and I'm only at 60% that I can actually do this and not lose my shit. Okay. Just to keep it real.
Okay. But I mean, everyone's coming at this from a different place. So I think that what our data would say is that this practice of just the breath, for example, simple, if you do it repeatedly, within 4 to 6 weeks, we know that most people notice a significant difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're doing is actually you're building that capacity in your brain to stop and notice and not be caught up in the reactivity.
Yeah,
and then
training your muscles.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it builds and builds. And what you guys are talking about is, you can do this now. And then there's the insight that comes. And then there's the, other things and that life is going to continue to give yourself these opportunities because there's a lot, growth is like sloughing off all the baggage, all the layers till you shine.
It's also self-reinforcing. Yeah. Like if you practice 3 times in 1 week, you will go, oh, this shit works. And it will reinforce itself. So just try it once a day, sitting at the red traffic light because you're frustrated because you're late. Don't wait till you're in a 9 out of 10 drama with your family. Try it with the small weights, with tiny irritations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or just when there's nothing at all, just to, yeah, like just to do it, because we need to, it's like you don't go to the race without having practice. You don't go show up for the game without any training, right? So we need to train so that when it's go time, we have that skill available to us.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And just a really fun thing, I think, is for those of you who are trying this out, try it before you wake up the kids for school or whatever it is they're about to start their day, and right before you pick them up, or right before you walk in the door from work or pick them up. Try it then and see how the energy shift is different from the days before, because you'll see the way you listen, the energy, the heart connection that you have with them will feel different. You'll feel more alive. You'll feel more attentive. And right there, you'll get some really good feedback on, oh, this feels good. This works. I'm not taking the whole day's stress or my work stress into my interactions with my children. And
Yeah, that first 5 minutes.
So I would try, just as the tool in the pocket, try it twice a day before you wake up your kids and right before you pick them up.
Yeah, and that's real leadership.
Question.
That's you leading the space, leading the energetic bubble with your kids with, I have a grounded nervous system. Welcome child into this fun place of the now that it's regulated, instead of bringing your frazzle to them.
Well, on top of that, whenever I've been apart from my children, I want to make sure that when we come back and reconnect, even after sleep, that I've tied that with a bow, not from a mother who's going, it's time to get up, and screaming and yelling. We've left each other for the day at school. I want to make sure that their first interaction with their mother is something that feels exquisite and nurturing and nourishing. And so I do that because I'm priming my mind for that space. So
yeah,
absolutely.
One tiny piece about that, all mothers who have young children, this will be really helpful. When you come to see your kids at the end of the day, if they've been out with the nanny or they've been out and you haven't seen them for a long period of time, often mothers feel guilt that I haven't seen them enough or that they've missed me. And what happens is they've not only not seen you for 3 hours, but then when they bump into your consciousness, when you first enter the door to pick them up, they don't get you then either. All they get is your guilt. So there's an insult to injury. So if you could, as you're walking up to the kindergarten, as you're walking up to pick them up, do the regulation, breathe through your guilt so that it's done and completed its feeling cycle, so that what they get is present, attentive mom, not guilt-laden mom, because that's not mom. That's mom with a whole bunch of fog in front of her, and I still can't find her.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
There's a question from Barbara. Any hacks to remember to do this if you're already upset?
Time out. So if you're already 5 or more out of 10 lost it, you do what I call a timeout, and everybody in the family knows timeout means I've gone into amygdala hijack. I'm in fight or flight lizard. I'm going to say and do stuff that undermines my love relationships. So I'm going to take responsibility for my emotional state, time out, then I do my 5 breaths, my regulation, and the whole family's watching, and they're watching magic happen. They're watching leadership happen. And when you come back out of your 1-minute meditation and you're calm and loving and present, who would we be if our parents did that?
Absolutely. and you can do that even when you're driving the car. There could be chaos happening behind you in the back seat, and you can just say this to the entire space. Guys, I can feel that I'm feeling frustrated right now. Mommy's going to do a timeout. I'm going to do some breathing exercise if you want to join me. And then what ends up happening is you start raising accountability partners. Then eventually, watch out, because they're going to be telling you, okay, mommy, I can see you have a tone. I think you need to breathe.
You might need a timeout, mommy.
Yeah, that's what's waiting for you.
Yeah. Barbara, I think your mic might be enabled. Would you like to ask any follow-up questions at all, Rhea or Annie right now?
I just want to say that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. We're so glad that you're getting something from this. And can you imagine putting yourself in a brief timeout as you self-regulate?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and it's a sacred action in our family. When someone says timeout, everybody goes quiet. No one interrupts. God is in the room. And the whoever calls the timeout is the first person to speak. No one else can interrupt because you're in a sacred process right now.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, thank you, Barbara, so much for that question. And Tracy has a follow-up question. I don't know if we can find Tracy right now, but Tracy, certainly come on the call, and I'm just going to share it with the panelists. She asks, at what age do you see a child can understand what timeout is and how to support that process and not sabotage it?
Okay.
So the timeout of the parent?
Yeah, I'm assuming that.
So you thinking, so the child is young. You're the one that is activated in a reactive state, and what age is it appropriate for the child to understand?
I would start that as early as possible, but let's face it, when you have a babe in arms, I'm not actually saying to the babe in arms that, okay, mommy's going to have a timeout now. However, I feel like a rule of thumb is, as the child is starting to pick up language, so from I would still say it even if I had a babe in arms, but I'm saying it to myself, because I want to get into the habit that when the child is 1 and they're picking up things voraciously, then I'm going to explain to them that maybe not use the word timeout. I'm going to say, right now I can feel that mommy just needs to take a deep breath, right? Just something simple, that I need to take a deep breath so we can breathe with mommy. Doesn't matter what the baby's doing, or the young child or toddler, we're going to do a deep breath. And so, or I think I'm going to find other ways too. Let them know different coping strategies. So breath is a beautiful one. It's the fastest way to regulate your nervous system, but so is music. So I'm just going to put on some music, and mama's going to dance. I'm going to do something. Oh, and then I bring it back. Oh, you know what? I was feeling a little bit like a lot of energy, and now I feel calm. And so they can see the transition. So never, this is very important, I think, never lose the opportunity with your children for them to see the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? Because the completion part usually happens, even like if you're in a disagreement with your husband, normally that happens somewhere outside of the kid's view, potentially. And the kids never get to realize that if there's a conflict, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And this is how we work through it. So for me, I leave nothing off the table with the kids, because I always want to use that as an opportunity to see, how did mommy and daddy, we have totally different ideas on how right now what's happening in the kitchen should work. But don't worry, mommy and daddy always work through it, and we figure it out. So then after I come back, just so like they don't feel frightened, and then I go, hey, this is what we did to calm down. I forgot to use my breath. And then I had to listen to daddy's idea. So I'm actually walking through step by step what I did to work through the impasse.
Yeah. And just also, we pointed this out when we did our talk, but when you're fighting in front of your kids, as long as they can see you get to resolution, shows them that conflict doesn't have to be something that's scary. Yes. It's important to say to your kids, and we say this every time to my daughter, mommy and daddy are having some intense feelings right now. We're working through it. We love each other. We're going to figure it out. You don't have to do anything. We've got this. You have to tell the child, you don't have to do anything. We've got this. Otherwise, they assume they have to save you, always, automatically. And so I've been saying this since my daughter was in my belly, since she was in my arms. Mommy's having some intense feelings. Sometimes I'm breastfeeding and I'm crying about some fight I had with my husband. And I'm like, mommy's having some intense feelings right now. She's feeling sad, but you don't have to do anything about it. Mommy's got this. I'm going to figure it out. And, I'm breathing through it. I would say it even when the baby was like a week old.
Because they can feel the shift in states.
Internally, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're practicing for articulating it later.
Yes. So it just becomes part of the culture of the home, right? And they pick up on it and they understand. Tracy, did we answer your question? If you can let us know. I hope we did. Okay. It looks like we did. All right. So we're almost out of time right now. And, I'm going to just say, Rhea and Annie, this has been so great. I love getting into the nitty gritty and the concreteness of it all. And that these are things that we can be practicing. And I'm wondering if, this concrete tools that you gave, I think that it would be really fun for us to come back and I don't know if this is possible. Maybe the audience can let us know if we want, but if we could set this almost like a challenge, like could we actually make the commitment to each other to practice this on a daily and give some feedback about what impact it had on us? So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I love that. I do want to give this one tool that I didn't get to say that I want to make sure we get before we leave. So the tool I want to give an actionable item with you and your kids is when you get upset, frustrated, or angry, and you're emoting to your child. Obviously, you could say, hey, mommy's angry 7 out of 10 right now. Mommy's frustrated. You don't have to do anything. But this is the line that I think is an ninja move. Mommy's frustrated and angry right now, but I love you more than I'm angry. And you can't just say it. You have to show it and feel it, and you have to mean it. So as a mother, you have to figure out, what do I have to do in here to remember what's actually true all the time? Because in the middle of the angriest fight with your child, if they suddenly coughed up blood and had a heart attack, you would drop that issue right away. So I know at all times, no matter how angry or sad or frustrated, you always love them more than they're angry, and they have to feel it. However angry you are, the love has to be equal or higher so that the child is not in a panic of unsafe, unloved state, which is not a neuronal state for new learning. If you want them to have a behavior change, they have to feel, I love you more than I'm angry. Here's what I'm angry about. They're not afraid and mom doesn't love me, I'm going to be abandoned. And then they can actually adapt to a new behavior. So I love you more than I'm angry. Say it, mean it, feel it with your children, with your partner, with your family.
Okay. So I'm just hearing from Mike that, one of the best ways that we could do this in terms of supporting each other on these new tools that we want to integrate, there's something called a habit share app that we can connect with each other on there around, let's call it maybe the 5 breaths, and I love you more than I'm angry. And then there's the scanner, right?
Yeah.
Sound good? And Mike, feel free to pop in here because I'm not a technical person, but maybe you can add in terms of how people might do that.
Yeah. Hi, Stacey.
Yeah. Hey.
I was just transcribing those 3 things: the 5 breaths, I love you more than I'm angry, and
the scanner.
Well, if you're transcribing it, then you've got to add this one. You've got to add in, what can I do to love you in a way that you want to be loved? Because that is a game changer.
Or what can I mom do to love you better?
Yeah.
Anything that gets feedback on upgrading
Amazing.
parenting from the customer. They're the customer.
They're the customer.
And I would just add that, you talk about that quite a bit in your interview, which is going to air again. Both the Mindful World Parenting Summit has an encore weekend this weekend. And so definitely check it out, share it. We want to spread this as far and wide as possible because this is how real change happens, is if we all get on board with embodying this information, it spreads like an amazing good virus that we want to see more of in the world. So definitely log on into mindfulworldsummit.com. And if you haven't registered already, register now. And you'll see Annie Lalla and Rhea Lalla's talks. Oh, there we go. We have a slide. This is where people can sign up and click into the weekend. It's again available free this weekend only. Okay. And you're going to go on there. And in addition to these talks, there's going to be so many talks that are of value, that are just amplifying this message in various ways in different parts of our life. And we would really encourage you to take that leap and buy this. Like this, I was sitting down and looking at all of the interviews that I had the privilege to do. And I'm like, this honestly would cost thousands of dollars. Like this opportunity to be this close and personal with all of these amazing wisdom teachers, professionals, practitioners that have their piece of this way of being conscious in the world. It's of tremendous value. And the thing is, when people do buy it, when you guys buy this, all of the profits from this event, this amazing event, go towards making this type of education accessible in schools around the globe. And so it's a way of continuing to give. And the benefits of that, it's like we give our best selves to our children, and the gifts that we receive in return just are tenfold from there, right? So this is how everyone involved in this is so coming from a heartfelt place of really wanting to make a difference. And this is how we change the world. So we thank you all for being here today. And this kind of experience that we've had today is part of this Mindful Mentors program that is going to be the next iteration of inviting people like Annie, Rhea, and other guests that have been part of this, and maybe some others that we have yet to speak to have this kind of more personal Q&A. Let's actually take up something new, practice it together, and really put this into action in our lives. Mike, did you want to say anything else about
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. The Mindful Mentorship Academy, as you're calling it, will feature calls just like we just did with Annie and Rhea. And thank you, ladies. That was amazing. I learned so much on that. The recording from this call will be available as well if you do make a purchase with the Parenting Summit. But the Mindful Mentorship Academy is rolling out just after the summit's over. And so it'll be a call like this once a month. And then there'll be weekly follow-ups. So it'll take a format of a monthly challenge. So just like we were saying, from those amazing exercises we got today, we would be following up with apps like the Habit Share, but also in our Facebook group. And we'll be making sure we're checking in, and everybody will have a chance to share what their experiences are, what's working for them, their wins, what's in their way, and also any challenges they're facing. And just create the space where we can support one another, and really have the opportunity to incrementally add these skills to our arsenal, and create a more intimate environment for taking them up as habits. So we're really excited about the Mindful Mentorship Academy rolling out, but I'll just follow up with saying these amazing bonuses provided by Annie and Rhea are available when you make the purchase of the summit, as is the Conscious Parenting Bundle, which is features the movie Milton Secret. Now, that wasn't shown very well on the summit, but it includes the feature film Milton Secret, which is based off of Eckhart Tolle's first book, children's book of the same name. And it comes with an educational guide. It's really great. That features learning moments from within the film itself, and these 2 courses called Presence in the Family and Escape Plan of Fear. Those are bonuses included with your purchase on the Parenting Summit, and of course you'll get all access to all the recordings as well of these talks, including this call today and the call on Tuesday with Ryan Wolford. So it says click to buy here now. Well, you can't, because I'm presenting this on video, but if you just go to summit.com, you should be able to register if you haven't, and then you'll be prompted to make the purchase. And the the Mindful Mentor program is available at the end of your purchase process.
I just want to point out, all the money we spend on helping our children have an extraordinary life, this is the cheapest education for you to add to having a genius child that's emotionally sophisticated, that can do something with their life. It doesn't get, the ROI doesn't get better than this, because the highest leverage impact we have in our children's lives is how we parent. And this is the cutting edge tools from the best experts in the world on how to do that. So to me, this is a steal. I signed up.